Video from my 2016 trip to Big Sur with Power Scuba. Let me start off by saying the water here is really, really cold. It was 47 degrees according to my colder at my two computers on multiple dives. Most people limited their dives to about 30 minutes. We were visited by a humpback whale at one point on the trip, which was a highlight for many. There were also quite a few jellies, and there were these strands, these cilia in the water. I don't know if they were like broken off tentacles from jellyfish or what. I was able to capture these shots by shining my flashlight on the jellyfish and then using my camera, my GoPro with the Macromate Mini to capture the image. This here is a comb jelly. There were several other creatures that were very similar, but this was by far the largest. I'm not quite sure what this is. There were small fragments of purple hydrocoral at various locations on the dive. And there were nudibranchs. There were nudibranchs everywhere. This is a Doriopsilo oblopuncata. As you can see from the three here, they were all over the place. Here's actually a pair that are mating. You can see the two sets of serrata on either end. Like all nudibranchs, these two are hermaphrodites. This is a Dorus monterriensis. You can tell by the black spots and the warts, for lack of a better word. And the common name is appropriately the Monterey dorid. Here I'm actually shooting from a tripod. I purchased a GorillaPod that I stuck on my bailout bottle and removed and tried to place in a few strategic locations to get steady shots. This is a clown dorid. There were several on one of the pinnacles that we dove, and I think this is one of the more interesting of the dorids. I was rather surprised that there weren't very many nudibranchs such as this, like the Hermesenda cassicornis, or even the Spanish shawls, the ones with a large amount of serrata down the length of its body. For the most part, it was the flattened dorids, like the ones that we've already seen. This is a Catlina variant of some sort. I think this is the same variant, but this was a much smaller specimen. This, I believe, is a Catlina luteomarginata. Here's the classic San Diego dorid. Again, this was a tripod shot. I'm trying to get some more stable video without having to use post-processing, because it adds sort of a weird effect. This was a small sea cucumber that I saw. It was kind of interesting looking. I'm not 100% sure what this is. I think it might be in the anemone family. It looks like it's got a central mouth like many of the anemones, and there you can see it unfurling a tendril from that mouth. This is actually a type of sponge. They were covering rocks. And there were anemones absolutely everywhere. And these weren't just the tiny strawberry anemones. These anemones were 8 inches or more in diameter. Here's a wall full of Metridium anemones that was at one of the dive sites. This actually wasn't even very deep. Some of the anemones were just absolutely stunning to look at, with the really thick tentacles. One in particular, this one right here, has a species name of elegantissima. Its name is literally elegant. Absolutely beautiful. And they're all over the place. This is called a Gurney's Seapen, and it was gigantic compared to the normal seapens that you're used to seeing at, maybe La Jolla Shores or Vets Park. It was, gosh, a foot and a half tall maybe. Really interesting. Only saw these on one of the dive sites. And this was a sheep's crab or decorator crab of some sort. The camouflage astounds me. I spotted this wolf eel. Unfortunately, my camera died, but I managed to point him out to some other videographers. This was another wolf eel. I saw, I believe, 3 in total on this trip. This one was wedged back in a corner. And someone pointed this guy out to me. It's in a hole that is just too narrow for his head, so he's just popping out. It's a very standard pose for a wolf eel. This is the biggest lingcod I have ever seen. Its head was the diameter of my thigh. It was about 4 feet long. My dive buddy and I spent a good 3 minutes just marveling at it. Nobody wanted to get too close. The topography of the sites were largely pinnacles that we dove. At least those are what led to some of the best sites. There's a variety. The diving wasn't too horribly deep. The deepest that I got on a particular pinnacle was about 130 feet. I did that as a deco dive, and it allowed me to stay away from the rest of the group with my dive buddy, who is also honorary breather, and you know, it's always good to practice the technical dive skills. The deeper you went, the better the viz was. There was a layer of just gunk for the first 30-40 feet. In some instances, it went down even to 90 feet. But then once you got deep, like here, this is me at 130 feet on one of the pinnacles, staring up at divers, which is what you see is that light, who are maybe 60 feet above me. This was also the fishiest location, because for the most part, it was not a fishy dive. It was mostly invertebrates. There really weren't any large fish other than that lingcod. This really was a beautiful trip, a little bit different than what I was expecting. And at the end of any deco dive, the anchor chain is always a welcome sight. This was a little bit of a deeper dive, and so there was a whole crowd of divers at the top. Always fun to go on a power scuba trip. Always good people.